Hello, Brother Sewing and Crafting family. Brother Brand Ambassadors are taking over the page. I'm Angela Wolf, and we have Cindy Hogan. I'm very excited for today's show. Hi, Cindy.
Hey, Angela. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. So all of you rolling in, if you've never been here before, say hi, say where you're from. We have a really fun group that joins us every Tuesday and Thursday on the Brother Sews page at noon, sometimes 2. It depends on our schedules, but usually it's noon on Tuesdays and Thursdays, Eastern Standard Time. So today, Cindy has a very, very, very cute project that she's showing us, and she's going to show us how to design fabric. So Cindy, can I bring up your photo?
Yes, you can.
All right, because this is really cute. Hi, Arnell. Jesse, everybody's rolling in. Okay, check this out. You want to explain it?
So yeah, this is basically, you can see the decorative stitches on there, and that's what we're going to be talking about today is decorative stitches. But what I did was I created a piece of fabric with decorative stitches, and then I turned that into a pinwheel quilt block to put into a bag. Instead of doing the entire quilt, I just did a simple block. And doing some fun decorative stitches just makes it totally different than just your regular fabric.
Well, it's like designing your own fabric, which all of us that are, we love to do creative things. You can't make it more custom than doing your own fabric, designing your own fabric in some way.
Exactly. And it just makes it totally different than what anybody else would have. So you get to put your spin on it, your take on it, and every one that you do can look different, which is what really the fun is on it.
This is awesome. So in case you didn't notice, we are live. I might not have mentioned it, but you might have seen comments come up. We are live on Brother Sews and Brother Crafting Facebook and YouTube page. So if you have questions or you just want to leave a comment, be sure to pop them in there. We can see all of them coming into one location. And as we get going, if you have questions, we'll be sure to take breaks and answer them for you.
The other thing about the decorative stitches is you don't have to put it in a quilt block either. If you want to pull up my screen again, I'll share some other pics that we've done.
Okay.
So that was the first one. Let me find my mouse here. And here's some other items. So we've got the little zipper pouch. Those stitches are actually on cork. There's a notebook cover there. I've done the decorative stitches down the spine of that one. And my favorite of them all is the bag, those 2 bags in the back where I've just randomly done them. So you don't have to have a straight line for that. You just play. And I just kept adding decorative stitches until I got it the way I wanted. I just randomly rotated it down through there. Some of the fun things about it, though, is if you do have a luminaire or a dream machine or a Stellaire, Stellaire does have the laser guide on it. Those actually make it much easier for you to go straight lines of stitches without having to mark. You can do decorative stitches, though, on any Brother sewing machine. Any.
That's a great thing to point out, because I know a lot of people watching the show, we have every range of Brother machine owners. And that's awesome, because they all have decorative stitches, from a handful of them to hundreds of them. Take your pick.
Exactly. And you just are going to go about it a different way. With the luminaire and the Stellaire and the Dream, I don't have to mark my fabric except for once. And even then, I could probably do it without it. But that first mark does make life a little bit easier, I will say. So I usually mark one line, and then I build using my laser guideline for basically going through to the next set of stitches so that they're evenly spaced. And you can pick whatever spacing that you want. So that's what we're going to play with today, is basically just doing some decorative stitches. I'll show you the laser guideline, but like I said, you don't have to do that. It's just one of the things that, since I have it, I'm going to make the best use of it.
You might as well. And I agree with you, though. I usually always have to have a chalked mark or some form of mark just for my first one, so I know exactly where I want it. I do the same thing.
I like to know that first stitch is where I want it to be placed. If I were going down an edge of the piece of fabric, probably not that big of a deal. But if I'm going diagonally, which is what I tend to do, especially if it's going in a block, then I'll go diagonally and I'll just build on either side. But if I'm going from one side to the other, I wouldn't necessarily need the mark. I could just use the edge of my fabric.
Very cute. So You want to get started?
Yes, ma'am. Let's do. Let me flip cameras here for you.
This is very exciting. Everybody's rolling in saying this is going to be so much fun. Well, I love designing fabric of any way, embroidery, you name it. But for those of you that maybe don't have embroidery on your machine and you only have decorative stitches, this is going to be really cool. So I have you up there, Cindy.
All right. So let me see if I can get out of here without getting in the way of it. Let me show you what I've got down on my sewing machine so you can kind of get the idea of what we're planning on doing. So if I lift my foot up here, you can see that I've created an entire piece of fabric here with different decorative stitches. Now, I love these little bees. Can you see my little bees going across here?
That's beautiful. I can see the bees.
And, you know, depending on what stitches you have on your machine depends on what you put on there. But I've got a ton of different stitches. And what I did was I started with the center row, and then I just built on either side. And that's what we're going to do today. Okay, so I'm going to grab a piece of white fabric. Now, one of the things that I will tell you is you do want to stabilize. So I have, and actually I put 2 lines on this piece of fabric. So just so that I gave you that first where I was going to go the first time. If you don't want to run down the center, you don't have, since that may get caught in my seam allowance, I may not, you know, occasionally I won't do that. Depends on if I know what I'm planning on doing before. If I have no clue as to what's going to happen with this, then I'll go ahead and go down the center.
Hey,
but
Cindy,
today I do know I'm not going to go. What?
When you mentioned stabilizer, I know there's a few people asking, are you just using just a fusible interfacing or are you using embroidery stabilizer?
I have embroidery tearaway stabilizer on here. You could use a wash away. You can use a tearaway. I don't think you need a cutaway just simply because you don't want that much bulk in your project.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we've got it set up. I'm going to go grab a decorative stitch here for you. So we're going to touch our sewing side. Let me see if I can find my stylus on the side. Character decorative stitches is where these will be found. Do I need to lower my camera so that you can see that? No, you can see that.
We can see it good.
All right. And so some of the stitches travel more than others. And I like to pick one that doesn't travel too much on the first row. That way I know that it's going to be a straight line for me. So let's pick one down over across through here. How about we go with, actually one of these will be fine. Let's just grab this guy right here. Haven't played with him yet, so we'll go with him. Now, on the luminaire, on the stellaire, on the luminaire, you specifically have this button right here. But all of them, the Dream, the luminaire, the stellaire, have a laser guideline. And some of the sewing only machines do as well. And I can't remember exactly which ones those are, but that's a little guideline that you can turn on that actually will allow you to see a line projected. I am going to turn off the light on my down below me so that you guys can see a little bit better. If I do that, then you'll be able to see my projected light. Otherwise, you're not going to see that. Normally, you have a nice bright area underneath here, but I'm turning it off so that you don't get a shadow. All right. So you choose where you want your main line to be. I want my main line to be right down the center. So that's just kind of adjusting this little guy right here. Center's at 0, 0. So I'm good to go. I'm going to go ahead and go down the center line for this one. We don't need a sub yet. So let's close that little screen. Oops, what did I do? I touched the wrong button there. There we go. Okay, so let's flip and show you what I've got. So can you see that without too much of a rainbow?
We can see it, and I always have to laugh. I always say, by the way, the machine doesn't come with the extra rainbow going on there. It's just the optical illusion of the camera when you're looking at it. When you're in person, that's not what happens.
Usually I can get that in there without the rainbow, but today evidently not so much. I usually start off of my fabric, and I'm just put the go pedal down and we'll take off. And when it comes back to the center, you're basically wanting your guideline to be in the center.
That's so quiet.
Yes, it is indeed. And I'm amazed at how well this makes my sewing skills become. I always am amazed that I actually managed to make it go straight down the middle.
And you know, that's such a great stitch to show, because for those of you that have never tried doing your decorative stitches on here, you notice that the machine it's moving the fabric sideways, forward, backward, sideways. She's not doing it. It's the machine doing it. So you have to really stay focused on where that line's going to be to try to keep it as straight as possible. But the machine does all of that. It's amazing.
So yeah, just following that little guideline makes it, when you get back to the center stitch, as long as it's on that, the guideline is on the center line that I put in there, I'm golden.
And this is also one of the reasons that Cindy mentioned adding a stabilizer to your fabric, because if you don't, your fabric could stretch out a little bit. And I saw somebody asking, could you use fleece instead of that? I would use a stabilizer, even if you have fleece behind it. The stabilizer is what keeps that fabric from stretching out as you do this.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference when you stabilize versus when you don't. And if you like to go slower, you can obviously go slower. I'm just putting on the gas today to get us through this.
So all of you watching, if anyone has a favorite decorative stitch, be sure to mention it in the comments, because I love to hear that. And just out of curiosity to see if there's common denominators in there, if everyone likes something different. Oh, look at that. That looks amazing.
So there's your first stitch. Now let's go look and see how we can set this up for the second one so that we know how far away we want to go. So I am going to pick a heavier stitch for this next one. Let's grab one of these. You can adjust the length if you want to. The width on this particular one is at 7 millimeters because it's just going to go straight down but you can obviously adjust your width to where it's shorter or longer. Choice is yours. Default settings are also always going to show up in black, regardless of which machine you have. So that is one of those things that you'll find nice. You'll notice I have my pivot engaged. That means when I stop and hit press my scissors, my foot will automatically lift up. If I stop and just stop, then it will stop with my needle down and my foot up. You guys can pick whichever you like. That's how I prefer to work. So let's look at our laser guideline again. So this time I want my main line, but I also want a subline. My subline, I'm going to have it just be a straight line. If I want, I can put on a grid. Let me show you the difference between these down here projected. So here's my grid. I could go with a grid line, and some people may enjoy that better. I like simple, so I like my subline. You can see I've got a red and a green. Perhaps I might want to switch my red to where it's green and my green to red, since I'm going on a pink line for you. But you can pick whatever you want. If I know that I want my stitch to be right down the middle here, and I want the edge of my stitch to be at the edge of the other one, then I want to adjust that spacing of my, what am I trying to say, my sub. So let's look over here. My subline set at 1/4 inch. So if I actually followed that down there, it would be 1/4 inch, and I would not pay attention to the marking that I put on my fabric. If I want it to match the marking of my fabric, then I need to adjust my main. And then adjust my sub a little bit. So now if you look, my edge of my sub guidelines there, this is my main. If I think my main's in the wrong spot, I can continue on a little bit. There you go. Now I'm perfect. So we're ready to go with this second set of stitches. I'm going to slide down just a little bit. I'm following this line right here, the sub line this time. because after this, that's all I'm going to have. Normally, I don't have 2 lines on my fabric. I did that for you guys thinking that might make life a little bit easier for you. So I won't be exactly down my red line that I've got on my fabric just because I did not set it up totally.
But you can definitely see, and I see some people saying, I don't know if my machine, the Dream Machine, has the subline. No, it doesn't. But at the same time, you can see how you can use that laser light and you can give yourself different guides to follow, even if you just have one light.
Yeah, and if you don't have this on it, like I said, all you have to do is mark your fabric and follow, just follow that line that you're marking. So I just basically rotated and went to the other side. Now, if you want to start at the beginning of the stitch, this one's really important. Touch that little icon right there. Touch this button. That goes back to the beginning of your stitch. So if you stop in the middle of a stitch, like I did, and you want to make sure, see, here's where I stopped. It's in the middle of a stitch, and you want to make sure that your next one starts at the beginning of a stitch. Then just touch that return to the beginning button, basically.
Can you show us that button one more time, Cindy?
Sure can.
In case somebody wasn't paying close attention.
This one right here takes you to the beginning of that stitch.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so let's take this and go traveling on down. So there are some other things that you can do. Also, I'm going to do a random one here in just a minute, but I wanted you to get an idea of how this works. On this particular machine, I can use my projection mode as well to pick another stitch. So that's what I'm going to show you next after we're down this one, just to kind of give you an idea. And you don't have to do the same stitch on either side. I just like to do that. My own personal preference. You can choose whatever you want to do. But think about this, not just quilt blocks, not just fabric, but you can do this on the bottom of pants. You can do it on your cuffs of your sleeves. If I were doing it on sleeves, I would probably use a wash away or a cutaway stabilizer just to make sure that I had something that I wanted, right? So if we want to try out stitches before we actually sew them, I'm going to touch on the Luminaire. You have a projector. This is the only machine that has that, is the Luminaire. So let me show you what that does for me. You see how it's projecting the stitch down here? That allows us to actually see what the stitch is going to look like before we select it. So I'm going to pick from a different category. And let me see here. Where's my... We'll start with this one. So you can see that little stitch right there, right? If I want to see what the next stitch might look like, I can put my little stylus here and touch my button. There's a little button here on the front of that. You see that little button? Yeah. That's what you touch. So you put it over that little plus sign and it'll navigate to the next stitch. Actually, I'm on the wrong thing. This is the one I want. This navigates to the next stitch. No, I'm moving it. Wait a minute, guys. Brain is having a brain. Ah, here we go. We want to touch this. There we go. Like, wait a minute, I'm having a brain moment.
I wasn't sure if I could have read your brain. I would have maybe helped, but I could read your brain, so you're good.
So, you'll notice how it's navigating through the different stitches. The one to the left or right on your machine is what's showing up here. And you can go through here until you find the one that you want.
I love that because you can see exactly what it looks like on the fabric.
Yes. And you can pick different colors to project if you want to. I actually know which one I want to go to, so I'm going to go ahead and just set this one, but that's not the one I'm going to use. I'm going to go ahead and grab the one I want. Let's see here. I want to do my bees because I like the bees. I just have to find where they are. Oh, well, why don't we try a different, oh, here's a needle. You see that needle? Now, if you want to increase the size of it, this button right here lets you increase the size of it. If you want to increase the density, this is not one that you can increase density on, but that's that one right there. So we're ready to go ahead and do it. I'm going to turn off the projection because I find that a little distracting. I just like to see where my guideline is. Ready? We're ready to take it off.
I love that color. So while you're doing that, there was a few questions that rolled in, and one of them was, what kind of thread are you using? Anything special? Embroidery thread, sewing thread, or does it matter?
I have embroidery thread on here. It doesn't matter. You can use sewing thread if you want, but I like the sheen of the embroidery thread.
Yeah, I do too. Oh, look at that. That looks so cute.
It's just, and that's just such a simple stitch, but it adds a little something to it. So let's do one last thing while we're on this side. Let's talk about random stitches. So the other way that I used this was, this time I didn't have the projector on. I did not have my guidelines on. I just picked a stitch. I was trying to turn off my guideline there. Turn you off. There we go. Off. There we go. You do have to touch the right button. This time I will go ahead and give you light on my screen down at the base so you all can see what it looks like as we're stitching. And I did basically random decorative stitches, and you can pick whichever ones you want. Doesn't matter. You don't have to keep it straight. This is one of those ways that I would suggest learning your decorative stitches, because you can randomly go, nobody's going to know that you made a mistake because you are basically just moving your fabric. All right, so I've got that little wavy line, and I'm going to start at the corner of my fabric up here. I tend to start a little off my fabric. I'll trim it up when I'm done. I always have a piece of fabric bigger than what I have intending for it to end up as. And you can just turn your fabric and have it go as serpentine as you want it. This actually is a serpentine stitch to begin with, but you can make it even more so by rotating your fabric.
That's very cool. Cynthia, she's just using just the standard end foot. That it'll tell you right on the screen what foot to use on this.
Yes,
so,
I should have shown that. I do have my end foot on here. That, and I'll show you why here in a second. Let's get done with this little guy right here, and then I'll take you as to my why you would use this one. It has a groove down the bottom center of it that makes it much more appropriate because the stitches can travel up underneath it.
Jan says, are the feed dogs down?
Nope. They are not. I am not free motion quilting. I am still letting my feed dogs move my fabric. I'm just rotating it manually. So here's what I've done. I've got a little random serpentine thing going across there. Let's look at this foot.
That looks cool.
So under the foot, you can see how you have a bigger groove here. Let me see where my J foot is. The J doesn't have that groove. The J's pretty much flat under there. So when you're doing decorative stitches, your end foot is your selection that you want to choose. Does that make sense? That makes sense.
Are you by any chance using, if you're using embroidery thread, are you using the same in the bobbin? Does it matter?
I actually am using white embroidery bobbin thread.
There you go.
And normally, and it really is not going to matter. So let's pick a different stitch and go another direction. And then after that, I'll show you the other thing I wanted to show you with our laser guideline. So I'm going to go from the other side this time with a different little stitch. I should have picked one that wasn't as dense of a stitch.
It looks good though.
So I just think this is fun. It's creative. You don't have to be the best seamstress in the world to do this. every machine has decorative stitches on it. Unless it's a PQ 1500 that's a straight stitch, you can have a blast. So, and it's just a matter of guiding your fabric however you want it to go. And you can travel as randomly or as straight as you want to go. Yeah, I should have picked a less dense stitch. We would have gotten.
I like it. It looks great. It really gives an example of what you can do with that. And you know, as many times as I've done decorative stitching, I have to say, Cindy, I never even thought about just going in random directions. I'm always so blind, straight on together. I mean, I don't have OCD, but I could when I'm stitching. This is really fun though. And then it takes the pressure off if something isn't lined up quite great either.
It truly does. And I've never done one that I wasn't happy with.
That's awesome.
And you could switch up your thread colors if you want to. You obviously don't have to do the same color for every stitch that you select. But this just takes the stress off of it. And you can insert this into anything.
You know, and I don't think I have it up here. I'd bring this up. This reminds me of this cute bag that I made. Not as cute as your bag, of course. I have this bag right here. Not quite as cute as your bag, but I decorated my own fabric using the twin needle with some decorative stitching. Now, you can't use all the decorative stitching with the twin needle, but there are a few that you could use. And I did randomness all over with different color thread. It turned out so stinking cute, but I love this with the serpentine stitch. That has to be one of my favorite.
It really does just add a little bit of something extra. And it's very cathartic, I'll have to say. I mean, as long as you aren't pressed for time, you can play and have fun with whatever stitch you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that one. We're off the edge, so I can cut that one and show you what I've got here. How are we doing on time? We're pretty good.
We're doing just great.
So there you go. We could add one, we can add another one, or we can go on to the next thing I was going to show.
No, keep rolling. This is great. We've got plenty of time. Shirley says she's never really tried satin stitches. She never really liked them until she tried it. Now she likes it.
Yeah, they're really quite fun. Let's see here. Let's try. Let's look and see what we've got.
No, Marie, she was not in the embroidery mode. She's in the sewing mode. These are sewing.
I am in sewing. Let's go with these. Those are fun stitches. You know, they don't look like much, but this is a fun one. The width is set at 7. You don't get to change that. But this circle is one of, let me show you what it looks like on a straight area. So here's that little circle on a straight area.
Oh, that's cute.
Let's go just do it randomly down through here. And this is a quick stitch. I like this one. And I like to just play and find different ones. It doesn't, like I said, you can't mess this up. That is the beauty of it. It's not mess upable. As long as you've got a full bobbin and a good needle to start with, you're not likely to break your thread and have to get started and figure out where it is, where the beginning of the stitch is. But I do have a way to show you that on this machine and on the Dream, that if yours happens to break in the middle of something, how do you go back and find it? How do you find that beginning? Projector sometimes helps, but this, I've got a more precise way. So I'm going to show you how I would do that. Notice there's my little random one of that guy. But let's say we wanted to make that we stopped in the middle of a stitch, right? Or it stopped, my thread broke. What do I do now? I need to change my camera angle. Sorry, I'm going to make you a little sick here for a second.
I'm cracking up. The new word of the day, mess-upable. Mess-upable.
Mess-upable. Yeah. Okay, so I've got my camera adjusted so we can see what I want you to do. We're going to touch the camera button. Okay. And the camera shows you exactly where your needle is on the machine. You can see where it's at on the machine. You can check and see if it's what you want. You can, let's see, is it going to give me my angle? No, there we go. But this allows you to basically put, oh, there we go. Let's go into the zoom mode here. The zoom mode lets me say, all right, I want to see where my needle's going to drop. All right, now, so you can see where your needle drop is when you touch that little button right there, right? You can zoom in directly on that stitch to see where you're at. And you could actually fit back into the center. Usually it lets me see my angle, or you can put up a grid to see better. You can take a picture of what you're at and save it. I'm not going to do that. But this allows you to basically go back to the beginning of a stitch, find the beginning of that stitch, and put it over the top of your project.
That is awesome.
So that is on the Dream, and that is on the Luminaire, that you have that little camera button there. Okay.
I'm watching the comments. I didn't even know there was a drooling emoji. I love that, Josie.
I did not know there was a drooling emoji either. That's funny. All right. No, the Luminaire is not the only one that has the camera. The Dream has it as well. So if you have a Dream machine, you could do that. So the next thing I want to show you with our, I'm going to go over to my cutting table here. With the projector or the laser guideline, basically, is how to put these together to make that, what did I do? Pinwheel, right? So I have squared my fabric up and I've made it a little bit bigger than I actually would do for my project. And actually I made this square huge so we could go fast. And I've marked the center and the center. Now, if I was only doing a half square triangle, all I would have to do is mark one center on this. But the fact that I want to do pinwheels, I had to mark both points just to give myself the way to sew on it. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to sew on this side of the guideline that I've marked and this side of it. And that laser guideline is going to allow us to do that. We good so far? Any questions?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So let's go back down here and choose our utility stitches. And you could switch to your N foot, to your J foot if you want. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to go to my piecing stitch and I'm going to choose my 1/4 inch stitch left. You can, and it's telling me I should change to my J foot. So we'll be a good girl and do that. Oh, hello.
And if for those that don't ever pay attention, if you look on the screen over there, it tells you what foot to use. So in case you're wondering, you're like, oh, I can't remember what Cindy said. If I do the decorative stitches, it tells you.
It tells you which foot you should actually have on. So I love the fact that it does that for me. So I am going to turn on my projector mode again. My laser guideline, we want my main on the stitch line, and then I want my sub to be 1/4 inch. And there you go. I'm going to sew on the right side of this first, simply because I set it up backwards. Usually I'll go the other direction, but we're good. So here's my main, here's my sub, here's my main. And we're going to get where it's going to catch the fabric and take off here. I'm sewing on either side of this so that I can cut down the center to have a perfect block. And you're going to see why I basically made this bigger than I normally did, because I did not pin. Rotate the fabric and go on the opposite side. Oh, we're not rainbowing now.
I know, it must be the good fabric.
And then you're going to do it from the other corner as well. Now, if I did it this way, you'll notice I would have a half square triangle. So if I just cut straight down the middle here, I would have half square triangles on both sides. Easy as pie, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make it, we're going to go even one step further and make pinwheels.
So which direction are you going now, Cindy?
I'm going the opposite. I rotated my fabric to go the opposite side. So to go the other corner to the other corner.
Okay, so kind of perpendicular to the last one you just did?
Yep.
Okay. Just checking for those that are like, whoa, I just missed that.
So you'll see I'll have a crisscross of stitches going across it here in just a minute. And guys, I am not a quilter by training, but this is super simple. That is not my first love in life. So I've got my stitches going both directions, and I should have pinned. I will say that. This would have been much prettier and right the first time, but that's why I made mine a little bit bigger. So you'll notice I've got, let me zoom. So I've got stitches on this side of the line and on this side of the line going straight across. And that's, I'm going to cut right down that center line from edge to edge. Pull it back towards me here a little bit. That work for you?
Oh, yeah. We can see that great.
All right.
Like, what just happened? That was a fast cut.
So I've cut right down that center line. I'm going to go ahead and do it on this side as well. And then take my other piece here and cut it down the center line. But now I've got a problem. I've got a pouch. That wasn't what I wanted, right? So no problem, because we are making a pinwheel. We're going to cut down the center of that. So where's my little mark that I want?
I'm watching with everyone. Everyone's like,
All right, so I've got a little 45-degree angle mark on my ruler, and I'm going to line that up to where I can just go straight down the middle of this one. Voila. Oops. Does help if you cut all the way through the first time. There we go. So now you've got that, right?
oh, that looks great.
So now you've got your fabrics to put together for your pinwheel. I would definitely square them off to make sure that cut off my tips and square it off and make sure all of my blocks are the same. But you simply do that for all the 4 pieces to where then you have 8 pieces.
Okay, so the big question is, how long would it take to make an entire quilt of decorative stitches?
Oh, Lord, have fun with that. You could do it. I like doing small projects.
I think I saw somebody in here say they did something with decorative. Have any of you made an entire quilt with decorative stitches? Because I love this. I know a lot of you have used it for borders because a lot of people are talking about the bees. Everyone loves the bees. I agree.
Yeah. The bees are fun. But I am one of those people that basically make the fabric and then design the project for it. I don't
king
actually
size.
think
But
of
Josie says do a king size quilt.
a king size. Yeah.
No, she says not.
But to put a block like this in as an accent in an occasional spot, no big deal. I have evidently my rotary blade does not want to cut that little spot there.
I love this, Cindy. I could think of so many different things on here. Now I'm more into like the garment, of course, or bags, like your bags. So you could see we're taking a few of these together, maybe down a sleeve, down the outside of a pair of pants. I mean, I could really,
Yeah.
we might have to do a challenge with this because this looks really cool.
Hey, listen, the last challenge we did, you wimped out on me.
I did whip out. Are you talking about the ugly sweater for Christmas?
I am talking about the ugly sweater for Christmas. So just
I
so
still
we're
have
clear on
mine
that.
half finished for next year. I'm a step ahead of the game, but this could be a really fun challenge because we're doing the Chloe Trench so long every Wednesday. Maybe we should find a way to add this, incorporate this into your Chloe Trench. Maybe it would be on the pocket or the collar or the sleeve. I mean, I could think of a lot of really cool things with this.
So I started with basically an 11-inch block, and each of my pieces are now at 5 inches once I trim them up.
That's really cute.
You'll notice what I did to trim them up was you get a square ruler that has a center line down it. Put that center line down the middle of it. There we go. I don't have much to fix. I've got just a hair on this side. I'm moving this one out of the way so I don't cut
it. Marianne says, shame on you, Angela. I know, I did.
I'm telling you, she bailed on me, girls. It was her idea too. That's the worst part. It was her idea.
Oh gosh, but I had to say, if anyone goes back to watch those episodes, you're the one that has you are the queen of the holiday sweaters. That's all I have to say.
I do like to get my square the way I like it here. All right, so once you've got it done, I'm going to sew 2 of these together for you. I don't think y'all need me to do an entire one, do you?
Oh yeah, we want to watch.
You want to watch an entire one put together. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Ask you. I know a lot of you are on lunch break. You can come back and watch. Do you want to watch the whole thing or you just want to watch one? We'll let them decide.
So, and you'll notice you have to rotate to decide how you want it to go. If you're trying to do a pinwheel, you want to make sure that you get them sewn together correctly. So those 2 would sew together. But having made this the way I made it, I'll have 2 blocks done after I sew them all together. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because you basically get double the amount of squares. All right, so I need this at 5.
Everyone says they want to see the whole thing.
They want to see it completed. They're going to test my sewing skills here today, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
And cutting. It does not want to cut when I get across there. I need to get me a new blade. Thank you. All right, rotate this way. Can y'all see what I'm doing? Yeah. I need to get it on my 5-inch mark. You know, ornery cuss. Now, this is my favorite rotary blade. I guess I just need a new blade.
That usually happens to me when I'm cutting silk chiffon during a live show. If I don't have a new blade, forget it.
All right, so that would be that.
Oh, yeah. It's looking good. Shirley wants to know, did you do your sleeves?
I did.
Linda wants to know.
I did.
Awesome.
All right, so there's my 5. I will say it is important to make sure you have your blocks all the same size. So this squaring up portion is important. Oh. All right. So now we would rotate, and I lay them out like this so I know what I'm doing. If I wanted to, I would personally probably cut out all or trim up all of my blocks and decide which ones I want to actually go in each block. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So let's say I wanted the 2 B's here. I would basically trim that one up so that I would have B's on this one and B's on that one. But I'm going to leave it just like we've got here. And I will say, this is a very visual process, guys. You have to make sure that you set them together like this. Otherwise, you'll sew them together wrong.
You know, that is so true.
All right, so I'm going to take, normally I would go press as well. We're not going to worry about that today. So my points in the middle may not be perfect because I haven't pressed anything. It does help if you press your seams open for this. Wait a minute. I picked up wrong. So this is my seam that I want to sew. And I'll figure it out in a minute over here.
This is going to look good. I'm very excited for this. And Marianne, I saw your comment. I will finish that sweater. You know what my problem was? It was COVID and I couldn't go to a certain store. I wanted to get that white puffy stuff for the neckline. But guess what? I actually bought some and it's all ready to go.
All right. So my main line, I want to set it on my stitch. Let's put it at, actually my main line I'm going to put over here because that's, is that what I'm thinking? No, I just need to move my, put it back to where it was. Put it on your line. Wrong way. I just wasn't paying attention to what I have here. All right. My sub is in the wrong spot. I want it on the opposite side at 1/4 inch, which is going to be like 6.35. There we go. Okay. Down here on your project. Subline's going to line up with the outside edge. Let me make sure I am matching up. And as I said, normally I would take this and press it open. I do not have my iron in this room right now though. So I'm going to finger press these bad boys. I learned the hard way that going one side to the other, like I would normally piece a quilt with these, does not work as well. It becomes too thick. Okay. If you want to pin, you can pin. We're going for it today. Subline, the line that I'm going to stitch on. I should have me a perfect 1/4 inch seam when I'm done with this. Okay, so there's that one, right? Let's make sure we're going to sew the next one correct. There we go. Let me press my seams open here. Uh-oh. You can see it's a puzzle. You want to make sure that you're putting the puzzle together correctly. And I evidently am not putting my puzzle together correctly. There we go. Nope. What am I doing? There we go.
I would want to change it over and over because you could actually, I know that's the pinwheel that you're doing, but I could see doing, you know, there's so many different ways to do that.
Oh, yeah.
I would probably sit there for about a half an hour trying to make up my mind.
So you could definitely rearrange it and do something besides a pinwheel. That is the joy of doing this yourself. All right. Nothing says your pinwheels can't become something else. Okay. So now, oh, my points didn't match up. Evidently, I didn't do too well on that one, girls and boys.
That's because you're live.
You do want to make your points match up. Evidently, I didn't trim that one very well. I got a cockeyed trim. And I do not have a seam ripper right next to me. It's over on my desk.
Well, that's okay, Cindy, because did you see my skirt, my jean skirt, which is in a bundle, by the way, and it was not finished on purpose because my points did not match up and I couldn't stand it. So it's in a bundle over here that eventually one afternoon when I have the seam ripper out, I'm going to rip it all out and start over because the denim was so stinking cute. And it was very similar to what you're doing here.
Yeah.
Except it didn't have decorative stitches on it.
Well, I will tell you that the seam ripper is a girl's best friend.
Phyllis says we get the idea.
All right. There we go.
I agree, Joyce. A great idea.
Now let's make my seams match up here.
Pam says, uh-oh, Cindy. Pam says, Angela, there is Christmas in July. No pressure, right?
I'm not making another one. Let's just be clear on that. I enjoyed it. But.
Well, I've gathered my supplies, so I might just have to challenge myself to redeem myself, for heaven's sakes.
Why are you telling me? Oh, I came unthreaded. And yes, I would normally switch to sewing thread for this, but we're not switching today.
Oh, we get to see the automatic needle threader. Voila.
Yes. I can't live without an automatic needle threader. I'm sorry. That is my line of demarcation these days.
And yes, all of you that rolled in that missed the beginning, as soon as we're finished here, you'll be able to go back and watch the replay on Brother Sews or Brother Crafting Facebook or YouTube channel. If you're on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel because every time we go live, you'll get a pop-up about it. And on Facebook, if you go and you like and follow the page, then usually you get a pop-up. It just depends. Sometimes they change the algorithm and who knows. Oh, okay, it's good.
And then you take these two together. Press open your seam here. I learned the hard way, pressing open the seam instead of going light to dark like I normally do is the better route to go with these. That way you don't wind up with a big knot in the middle of it.
Well, that's a good idea.
Okay, so there we go. Let's see how well I do live. I am a very meticulous person normally, so this is the fact that I'm not pinning and I'm not pressing. I'm wondering whether we're going to have good points or not, but we'll see how good I do. And if you didn't know what this little button does on your J-foot, that allows you to go over humps.
I love that button.
Levels that foot for you on that spot. All right, here we go. The big reveal. Oh, man, not too bad.
Oh, that looks wonderful.
So let's go see it on the other camera.
That looks really good. Oh, Shirley, by the way, congrats on your new mats. I'm enjoying reading the comments as I'm watching you sew. No pressure on my side.
So there it is. Perfect pinwheel. And
Oh my gosh.
that's pretty darn good.
That looks awesome. That absolutely looks awesome. And I have my glasses on. I'm looking closely. I love all the decorative stitches. They look so good on there. That looks like custom fabric because you could match the color perfectly for whatever you're working on. And that really looks great.
I think it's fun.
Cindy, what that makes me think of is just a few days ago, I don't remember which week it was, on one of the live shows. We were doing some very similar to that, but it ended up being, I don't think you were on the show when they were being hot pads. Were you on that one?
Mm-mm.
Okay, they were so cute. And what you just did there is about the perfect size for a super cute hot pad.
Yeah.
I can handle that. Hey, Josie, that's way better than a king size quilt.
A pocket of a bag. I mean, you can make mini ones. So here's a smaller one. So you can make smaller ones. You can make bigger ones here.
That's cute.
You can, it just depends on how much time you want to deal with it. You don't, the fun part about it is it's really not, you can't mess it up.
Yeah. Very cute. Everybody's saying gorgeous, awesome, perfect.
If they haven't played with their laser guidelines, I highly suggest you start touching those buttons and using that, because it really does make sewing straight seams so much easier. I look like a sewing rock star when I do that.
Even when you're leaning over your video camera, it doesn't matter. Everybody's saying they're going to try it. That was a great, great project. And it can be used in so many different ways.
Yeah.
I just thought of another one, gift bags, because right now there's a lot of graduations going on, weddings. I have to tell you, there must be a lot of weddings going on, because we had a fishing tournament last weekend. We couldn't get into any restaurant because there was bridal parties all over the place. This would make a great bag for a gift.
I have actually a wedding this weekend. So wedding activities start tomorrow. But I have a different thing that I'm giving for that. But it was handmade. I've got she's getting something that is not handmade and then something that is. So.
Well, just throw that in there. She'll just think it's cool. It doesn't even need to be a bag.
Here you go. Here's your hot pad. Actually, I could turn that into something and give it to her. Yeah.
Throw it under the embroidery machine and put their name on it and let it be done. Everybody
fun with that.
Awesome. They loved it. Anybody have any questions? Because I think nobody had too many questions as we went along, and I don't think I see. Oh, thanks, Marianne. We did do well in fishing. We came in second place, totally off topic. And guess what? It's fishing season, Cindy, and I always end up with bruises. So guess what? Guess where my first bruise is? On my big toe. I was holding a 24.5-pound king for a photo, and it slipped out of my hand and dropped right on my toe. Now you can't make that stuff up.
No, you can't. That's painful.
It's painful. No sandals for like a few days till that goes away. But everybody's saying thank you. They loved it. So I have an idea. When are you on next, Cindy?
Next month. So the third Tuesday of every month is me.
I love this project. Now, if I commit, just a small hot pad or something, or maybe I'll add it to a garment. But I'm thinking I would like to add this to the Chloe trench. So do you want to have a little, it's not really a challenge, but we're going to challenge all the Brother Sews and Crafting followers, all the Brother fans that are sewing the Chloe trench or working on something for the summer. It could be a hot pad or something. Do you want to do a little challenge? And then if you when you do one of your little pinwheels, even if it's a really itsy bitsy one, Josie, it could be even this big. If you hashtag Brother Sews, we will go find those, and maybe we could bring some of those up on the next show. I think that would be cool. Really fun.
That'd be lots of fun. I don't have to make a Chloe trench, do I?
No. Nope, you don't need to make the Chloe trench, but I think I'm going to add it. I haven't decided. I might even add, because I could do a really small one and turn it into the belt. That would be something very manageable. I have to work on that.
I think the random stitches and turning that into a belt would be cool.
I think so too. I like the random stitches for a couple of reasons. One, well, the belt, if the belt gets skewed at all, you're going to notice that it's not straight. If you're doing some of those serpentine ones, that would look very cool. Or on the collar and the facing.
Yep.
I don't know, I have to come up with something. No, you do not have to make, I totally am releasing you from having to make a Chloe trench, but because you gave the lesson, now I have to go do it. So I think that would be fun.
There you go. There you go. So yeah, I'm what, 3 weeks or 4 weeks from now, the third Tuesday of every month is mine. So, all right, we've got some people game for it. And this afternoon, I'm going to talk about decorative stitches in PE design. So, because you can actually design your own.
That's going to be very cool. That's at 4:30 today, Eastern Standard Time. And Edna, she says, when you're using the decorative stitches, are you using the walking foot or the move it foot? Neither.
I didn't use either. You could use the move it foot with certain ones, but it's not necessary when you're just decorating fabric. That in foot is the key.
Definitely. I think I didn't think there was any. No, Josie, I'm not doing it on the sweater. The sweater's going to wait till Christmas in July or actually December. I have it here, though. Nicely safe.
Yeah, I'm not making another one of those. Princess and I both got one.
You guys are so funny.
Cute, though.
Oh, Tana says on the belt. I think that would look good.
Yep. I think that would be really cool on a belt. Give it just a little bit of something extra. And guys, it's a great way to learn the decorative stitches on your machine and which ones you like, which ones you don't, how they respond. You could actually even use, if you've got the luminaire and you've got that endpoint sewing, if you've got that upgrade, you could do endpoint sewing and make sure that you start at beginning and to end. I personally am happy with going off the edge because that way I can square things up.
Yeah, and you made me think of something. But first, Dolly's nice to see you, Dolly. She says, "Are you going to continue shows for the summer?" Yes, we are. Every Tuesday and Thursday, unless there's a holiday or something. But usually, it's every Tuesday and Thursday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Tuesdays, every once in a while, it gets pushed off to 2 p.m. It depends who's coming on. That's usually on Emily's day. Because she's got things going on in the morning. But what you just mentioned there, somebody did ask earlier that we did not answer. And they said, well, these decorative stitches, could they pop out? Could they break? Are you worried about them falling off the end? Well, if they're going into a seam, you don't have to worry about that.
Exactly. Squirrel? What happened?
I don't know. Somebody always rings the doorbell at the most opportune times.
I didn't hear the doorbell ring. I thought.
Oh, gosh. This is hilarious. Well, Cindy, this has been super fun. I'm looking forward to it. So don't forget, everyone, post your photos, #BrotherSews, #BrotherSews, and then we can find those. And when Cindy comes on next time, we're going to see all of the creative things you came up with.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what they end up doing with them. You could do log cabin quilt with it. There's all kinds of stuff you could do and have fun with.
Awesome. All right. Well, have a wonderful day. Everyone, thank you for watching. Don't forget, Cindy's on at 4:30 today. Tomorrow, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be on my page, and I'm going to be doing the Chloe Trench sew-along. I might have to come up with something good.
All right, guys. Thanks for coming and joining us today. It was a blast. I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. Thanks for the laughs.